afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to What the Why with Barbara Ann on RVN Television. If you haven't seen us before, we feature conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figure things out. Maybe you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, or maybe you feel stuck and you want to get unstuck in your company, your job, or even your life. Many of our guests have something in common with you. At some point in their lives, they felt similarly. Today is no exception. Please join us in welcoming Dorine Rivers, the founder and CEO, which in this case stands for Chief Edutainment Officer of Savant AI. River has a PhD in business management and human organizational systems, a project management professional certification, and investment banking license. For 3 decades, she has experience in launching and managing businesses, educational leadership, and video production. And she is an award-winning published author, which you're going to learn more about. As a serial entrepreneur, River's expertise is in creative vision and execution, strategic planning, and identifying growth opportunities that will transform how we generate visual materials and bring content to life. Her passion for creating Savant came from a desire to convert her own manuscript into videos. She soon realized that the system she was building could benefit millions of businesses, educators, and learners. Now, if you ask her about the inherent challenges, she will say that building a business is like climbing a mountain, which, by the way, she's done. Anyway, you get up every day and you put one foot in front of the other, and nothing stops you until you reach the summit. Her everyday motto is grit knows no limits. She loves cooking, adventure photography, and filmmaking, and is an avid biker, hiker, and water sports enthusiast, on top of everything else she's already doing. So I'm super excited to have her join us. So without further ado, please join me in a literal round of applause in welcoming Dorine Rivers from Arizona to our show live via Zoom. So yay! So there's your round of applause.
Thank you, Barbara Ann. That's great. What a enthusiastic introduction. I'll have to hire you to do those more often.
Sounds like a plan. So after reading all that, I mean, and when I say talk about climbing mountains, you've literally climbed mountains. But most of our guests, I did have one in 3 seasons, usually didn't imagine what they're doing now is what they would be doing when they grew up. So what did Little River, also known as Dorine, want to be when she grew up?
I don't know that I had anything specific in mind. All I knew at the time, I had an older brother, and all of his friends were my friends. And then I grew up around boatmen because my father ran wild rivers and went on expeditions. So there were always older men or older teenagers or early 20s men around me all the time. And all I really knew was I wanted to do all the things that they did. And at the time, those weren't the things that women were supposed to do. But my father never put any limitations on us. He had 1 boy and 6 girls. And I asked him one time, I said, are you disappointed that you didn't have more boys? And he said, why would I be? He said, my girls can do anything that a boy can do. And there were never limits on it. And so I not only learned how to jump over those gender boundaries to do what I wanted to do in a job, there were just no boundaries at all. And you can do whatever you decide you want to do. The key is you have to decide to do it. And I learned that at an early age. And so my vocations, I was an entrepreneur at age 8. And I really am unemployable by anyone else. And I learned that the hard way and a couple of times until I just gave into it and said, I'm not employable, therefore I will be on my own. And you learn to figure it all out as you go. And it is a way of life, and it's a way of expressing you as you, and you just embrace it every day.
Wow. So with all of that in mind, how did you get to where you are now? I mean, you are in a male-dominated industry and you're killing it. So how did you get here?
It's a process, and I won't say by accident because it feels like that. But it's by preparation at each stage, not knowing what stage is next. You prepare for where you're going and you go there, and then you look at the horizon and say, oh, okay, let's go here next. And it really is preparation. But I think one of the main things to remember, it is, and it's a term you may have heard before, and it's called stay in your zone of genius. And what that means is that if you're doing things that are difficult for you, you don't want to do, you procrastinate it, you put it off, it's not easy, all those things are not in your zone of genius. And the things that are in my zone of genius have culminated in what I'm doing now. It's a love of filmmaking. It's a love of writing. It's a love of production. It's a love of teaching and educating. And it's a love of wanting to help others be the best that they can be. And all those came together, sort of like the perfect storm when AI hit the scene. And it was really my book, Brain to Bank, How to Get Your Idea Out of Your Head, that was the catapult for all of this. I had created online business courses before, and after writing the book, which is really, so many people have great ideas. But how do you get that out of your mind and go from mind to market and get it out there so that it becomes a real thing? Well, the book very methodically takes you from step 1 to step 17 and just work your way through each chapter and do the exercises of each one of those things at the end of those chapters. And if you do those things, your business is up and running in the marketplace when you're done with the book. So I thought it would be a great online course that would make it easy for people to watch and then implement. And I had created a couple before the hard way, where you're hiring editors, and obviously your copywriter is you because you've already written your book. But you've got filmmakers, and there's sound, and there's music, and there's animations, and all these things go into it. And I found out a couple of things. One, it takes 3 times longer than you think it will to do your online course. 2, it costs 3 times more money than you thought it did by the time you're done. And 3, you've hired all these people that are on their own timeline with their own rates. And at the end of the day, you don't like any of them because nobody did it exactly how you wanted it. So I wanted to avoid that experience. So I called one of my AI friends who knows all about AI, and I said, is there a way I can build this with AI and eliminate this excruciating pain of what it takes to do it the old-fashioned way? And he says, absolutely. So we spent 2 months putting together AI programs and some things that make it easier to take that text and turn it into videos. And after 2 months, I'm realizing that I am not building an online course for Brain to Bank. I am building an AI platform that can benefit millions of people. So I switched horses and hired a bunch of developers and said, here's what we're building, let's go. And that's really how I came to build Savant, was trying to figure out things for myself and then realizing this is a really huge, much broader application that I had intended just for my little book. So that's where Savant's AI came from.
Wow. So, which one I love the name of it. It's so creative. And it sounds like it's so accurate. So tell us more about Savant's AI.
Savant's AI takes text and it turns it into videos. And as of recently, you can also just put in an idea and it will write your narration and give you a video. And what happens is there are so many educators, trainers, creators, entrepreneurs, people who have existing material that they want to be more exciting, more engaging, and nothing's less engaging than a PowerPoint that you have to work yourself through and read the bullet points and try and figure out what is this talking about? What's in between these lines that it's not telling me? And you've learned nothing except that you've checked off that little box that say, I did my training. It doesn't help you as an employee. It doesn't help the employers. There's nothing there to apply because you were bored out of your mind and you were not engaged. What if you could take that same material and then turn it into 2 or 3 minute micro modules where people who are standing in the grocery line can get their training done? Most people's faces look just like this with their phone in front of their face all day long. So let's meet them where their face is. Let's
Yeah.
give them a 2 minute video they can watch while they're standing in the grocery line. Or let's give them a 3 minute video they can watch while they're picking up their kids from school, or whatever. You can take in a 2 or 3 minute module and it highlights the key points. And because it was entertaining and fun and highlighted the things that want you to remember, and you saw it and you heard it and it was moving and it was fun to watch, you're going to remember it. If you remember it, you're going to be able to use it. As an employee or as a student, you're going to be better at what you set out to be. As a trainer, guess what? You actually taught them something. And as an employer, your employees are now better, which means the retention rate's better, which means they're happier, which means they're making you more money. It's a no-brainer and it's a win-win all the way around.
And it's brilliant. I love everything about it. And there it's one of those things, because what you're describing is light years beyond some of the other tools that are out there. As someone who puts together some of those things and used to teach a class called Death by PowerPoint.
Yeah.
um, yeah, because we've all seen those, like, really, really awful PowerPoints that the only thing that makes it worse is the person's reading it verbatim, slide by slide, and it's like, oh my gosh. So what you're doing really addresses human attention span, as well as a lot of good intentions that just don't work. So it's really exciting. Um, you know, a lot of people would have been afraid, even with the best ideas out there, to move forward. And, I've heard you described as fearless and so forth and so on. How did you find the courage to just say, you know what, I'm going to do this? I mean, it sounds like some of it came from your dad, but what else encouraged you to just go all in like this?
Well, a number of things. I've spent my career helping companies get up and running. I would have companies call me and as early as even naming the company and set up their systems and processes, set up their global expansions, their logistics, their training, their product development. And, after a year and a half, you hand them the company and you say, don't kill the baby. And most of the time they do. And then you go on to set up another company. So that part of it was easy. The hard part of it was the AI part, because AI is so new that some people don't even know what AI stands for. And I don't know why. It might be a defect in my DNA that I wasn't afraid of it. But I just figured whatever I need to learn, I'll learn. And I had recently just come back from hiking Kilimanjaro, and I had trained 9 months for that. And a couple of things carry through in an experience like that. And it seems like it's not related, but it's all related. And it looks like this. I was over in Africa and I was flying over there, going to various camps, and I kept flying over Kilimanjaro. And I'm thinking two things. One, this has been on my bucket list since 1993. And two, you ain't getting any younger. So I came home and I signed up for an experience with a trekking company that I knew had a great reputation. So I came home and I signed up for the expedition. I got my airline ticket. And then I signed up for what was called the Arizona Winter Six Pack, which are 6 really hard hikes that you have to finish between December and April. And I knew that if I signed up for them, that I was committed. And so I started doing those hikes and I got a training schedule for myself. And I wasn't a hiker at the time. I'm a biker, but not a hiker. But now I'm a hiker because now I'm gonna climb Kilimanjaro, right? And so I get this training schedule all outlined and I don't miss a day. And here's the reason I don't miss a day. And here's the reason I do all 6 hikes is because if you're going to do something, you have to jump in with both feet. And if you're going to do it, you're not going to fail. What does it take to not fail? You have to follow the plan. So you get your plan and you follow it. And when I went and I hiked Kilimanjaro, I went with 6 other people who were actually from Boise, Idaho. And, they were acclimated normally at home at 5,500 feet. And then they'd been hiking at 14,000 feet. I didn't get anywhere near that in Arizona. Um, but I trained, I trained really hard. And I was the only person that didn't get altitude sickness. And I knew that when I took that first step onto that trail, and it was 7 days up and 2 days back, I knew when I took the first step that if I had to crawl on my hands and knees, I was going to summit because I'd worked too hard not to get there. And I didn't have to crawl on my hands and knees. I walked up and it was fine and I didn't get sick. Those kinds of challenges and then ultimately those kinds of successes, they stay with you and they transfer over to other things you do. I had a plan. I didn't quit. I stuck to the plan. I made it to the top. Starting a business or changing and doing another career, all of that is the same thing. You decide what you want to do, you get your plan. As soon as you take that first step, you are committed to that summit, whatever that goal is, and you don't quit. And you can get on your hands and knees and crawl there, but you will get there because when you take the first step, you've decided you're going to summit, and it's the same thing.
Wow. Words to live by. And we actually are due for our commercial break. So we're going to take a brief pause for our sponsors. So everybody who's watching, please come back after our commercial break for more with River on What the Why with Barbara Ann. Welcome back to What the Why with Barbara Ann and today's special guest, Dorine Rivers. And before the break, we're actually hearing about her phenomenal trip to Africa and hiking Mount Kilimanjaro, which is just incredible. And the life lessons that are so applicable to businesses and everything else. And as we continue that journey, you know, I'm so curious, what, if anything, is your next adventure in terms of conquering?
Actually, I have been on every continent except Antarctica, and so I am going to kayak the waters of Antarctica in next March, where Shackleton had his huge adventure and expedition. I read his book, I watched the movie, I was enthralled by this man and his ability to not just stick it out and finish it and get where he needed to go, but he never lost a man during that point time, and he was quite a leader. It kind of reminded me of my dad, actually. And I just thought I'm going to go kayak those waters and navigate through those islands and see the places that he traveled to, and it'll be my seventh continent. So that's what's next.
Wow, that's awesome. And, and speaking of books, let's go back to yours because, I started going through this. Um, thank you so much for sending to me. So everybody, so you know what it looks like when you go and search for it. And of course, um, River has a handy QR code in that you can scan in order to look up information about her book, and everything else she's accomplished. Um, one of the things that I loved about the book in particular was you dedicated it to your children, which is amazing. And I loved when you wrote, all, you named them, Jason, Emily, Joshua, Jacob, and Babe, all of whom have the guts to dare mighty things and transform hard goals and ambitious dreams into reality. And then you are all my heroes, and I want to be just like you when I grow up. So I loved that. Just absolutely love that. Um, how did the kids take it?
I guess with a grain of salt, who knows how much they got teased for it, but they're all adults now with children of their own, and they are amazing. Every single one of them has just nailed life. They've picked the right partner for them. They're super great parents. They're great spouses. They're incredible business leaders, community leaders. I feel lucky to be their mom because they are very incredible.
Which is awesome because you raised them. And so that is a reflection. They are, in some ways, it sounds like I'm hearing your greatest successes.
Well, after a certain point, they are making their own way, right?
Sure.
So uh, there's foundations, and then there's taking with what you have and really doing something with it. And boy, they just nailed it, all of them.
Mhm. And of course, one of the things that I connected with right away is everything you're about in your book starts with the why. So what better place to talk about it than what the why with Barbara Ann? Um, and I showed this to one of my team members, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, this makes so much sense." And even your preface, I mean, this picture of you, I was just like, "Oh my gosh, this picture was just like, wow." I'm like, that is, talk about leaping. One of my team members used to have a sign over a desk that said, "Leap and the net will appear." And 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 but whether it's the part that says, "Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines," or as you're moving through it, from everything from writing the plan to I, even an FDA approval track. I mean, a lot of books don't talk about that. And yet, those of us who work with the founder funder community realize that anything medical has that need. I mean, you really, kudos to you. Um, I know it's up there. It's a best-selling book. Um, you know, and I love that you had used, even on the back, Helen Keller's quote, "Life is either a daring adventure or nothing."
I do.
So, so for the people who are watching the show, and many of our viewers, they're just, they feel stuck, and they get inspired by seeing other people who either look like them, or similar age, similar backgrounds, whatever. And they're inspired by seeing that they can do it. Maybe I can too. What advice would you have to the viewer who's watching this that has a great idea, um, about not letting the fear get in the way of them taking the chance at succeeding?
Fear is an interesting little in your face thing all the time. And the thing to remember about fear is that fear is something that is in the future that hasn't happened yet. That's in your head. Okay. And if you just take one day at a time, you don't have to do what you need to do for the next 10 years today. You don't have to do for the next year or the next week. You have to do today what you need to do today. And it's a matter of just laying out what those things are and realizing I can do one day of this. And then you wake up the next day and you say, I can do one day of this. And you keep going. And what happens is you realize that you did do it, you can do it, you'll continue to do it. As that confidence builds, the fear gets squashed down because it doesn't have a leg to stand on anymore. And it's not that it's not going to be replaced by something else because it has a way of doing that. And you just beat it up the same way, but you just take it a day at a time and you remember every day at the end of the day, you say to yourself, what are the three great wins I had today? And they don't have to be anything huge. They could be, I made a phone call I didn't want to make, or they can be the smallest things, but they're wins. And when you keep reminding yourself, I did this and this and this, and I did it well, it trains your brain to say, I can do this.
Which is awesome. And I'd say, in terms of your industry in particular, what's one thing that you wish you had known as you were moving through these on your journey that you could share with somebody else who is looking to travel a similar journey?
I would tell you the one thing I did not do well that still to this day hurts me that I didn't do it well, and that's networking. I am a person that sits in my office and has a list a mile long, and I sit there, I tick everything off all day long, and I think I had a good day. And the only people I've talked to all day long are Siri and Alexa. And that's not a good thing. I wish that I had a game plan that said, touch base with 3 people that you've known in the past that you want to continue to have a relationship with. Contact 3 businesses in your industry that you want to build a relationship with. I didn't do those things, and it hurts me today in what I'm doing because I should have this long list of networks after being in the field for so long, and I don't. And so I'm paying for that now. And that's hard for introverts to do, which is put yourself out there. We don't want to do that. But there was a book by Keith Ferrazzi, who is a friend of mine actually. And he wrote it several years ago, and it was called Never Eat Alone. And he talks about when you go somewhere, sit down and talk to somebody while you're eating lunch, or you're at the water cooler, or just talk to somebody new. And, that's a painful event for someone that doesn't want to talk to someone new and has a hard time with that. But if you could make yourself do that, even if it's a phone call, even if it's a text, even if it's an email, which are a lot less intrusive for people than a face-to-face, build your networks and build them now and maintain those friendships. It all comes back to help later on, but genuinely do it. Don't do it because it's going to pay off later. Do it because you care about that person that you send a text to. Hey, I was out on a walk this morning and I saw a dog just like yours, and I thought about you, and I hope you're doing great. Something simple, and
Mm-hmm.
but mean it. But that's my biggest wish I had done list right there.
And you know what? That is phenomenal advice, something I can both empathize and relate to. Um, and it's interesting as I've seen more and more of those of us who are introverted who can, pass as as more ambiverted, make really phenomenal leaders because we're really great listeners. So thank you so much. We're at time. It flew, which is not surprising. What is the best way? I kind of already pointed out your QR code, but what is the best way for people to connect with you so that they can start building those relationships that you just suggested are super important?
Well, I would say really go to Savantz, SAVANTZ.ai, and look at what we're building. And there's a contact sheet there. And if you have a question or you just want to comment on it or just say hi, fill that out. It gets to me. And I would love your input on what we're doing, what we're building. How can we make it better? How can we help it serve you more and to help it accomplish the goals that you have?
Awesome. All right. Thank you again, River, for joining with us today and sharing your personal and professional journey with us. And also, please, this book is available in so many different, I guess, forums, for lack of a better word. Amazon, you name it, you can find it wherever books are sold. So please, this is a really great blueprint. I'm actually going to recommend this to some folks that I'm mentoring now. And okay, so regarding our upcoming guests, as we wind down, like River, like our other guests, they don't disappoint at all, and you really don't want to miss any of our conversations with them. They said we continue to have leaders of all ages, all industries, backgrounds. Some of them overcame some seemingly insurmountable challenges. Others, went through a wide variety of paths to find their why. So please tune in and learn and be inspired by how they did what they did and how you can achieve whatever you set your mind to by overcoming the fear of change or failure. And if you missed any past guests and you want to check out what they had to say, you can also catch all 3 seasons of our show on the What the Why page of RVN Television's website, as well as through Purposeful's website and other platforms. These days, you have so many viewing choices, so thank you very much for tuning in, and please tell a friend or colleague about us. And also, please remember, whether you want to make changes in your company, career, or life, join us for more informative and illuminating conversations with guests such as River, who navigated and overcame whatever challenges might have been in their paths to find their purpose and live it.